The year is 1950, and you are a prisoner in Soviet Russia. Chances are you are chucked into the Gulag for a life of extremely hard labor, minimal nourishment, and harsh conditions. Some have even described it as being worse than death. Today, we will be taking you on a journey into the Gulag so that you could experience the harsh conditions and unheard horrors that will surely make you feel blessed that you live a far better life. So without further ado, let us begin. Before we head into the conditions you will face when on your journey into the Gulag, we should at least discuss what the Gulag is and what its role was in Russia. Soviet Russia was very different around 60 to 70 years ago, when the world was following a criminal system that included criminals being put behind bars and sometimes being killed by hanging if their crime was severe. Soviet Russia opted for something different. Under the leadership of Lenin and then Stalin, a government agency known as the Gulag was formed, which was responsible for handling criminals of all sorts and forcing them into labor. It was later found out that there was a staggering 476 camps in the country, which were all part of the Gulag system. The ideology behind it was the fact that instead of being wasted behind bars, these criminals could serve their time and help the country thanks to free unlimited labor. Now imagine yourself, for whatever crime you find yourself transferred into the Gulag. Your crime might be as insignificant as stealing food as you're hungry, etc. But since the criminal system is so biased, you will most probably find yourself in the Gulag. At this point, you must be thinking that the worst part of the whole thing is the labor. However, that is so not true. You will be amongst people of the worst sorts. Big-time smugglers, murderers, and even rapists will be around you. So better tighten that belt of yours, cause you're gonna need it. Now you must be wondering, what kind of jobs did you have to do to serve your punishment? Well, these ranged from different projects such as cutting down trees, mining for something, or digging for something. It could be anything that usually benefits the state, but the worst thing is that you will be given one of the most ineffective and cheap tools to work with. Given the number of people in all the camps amounts to millions, the quality of tools was very low. However, consider yourself lucky if you get one, as people sometimes do not even get one and are forced to use their bare hands to do certain tasks such as digging. The situation got so bad that the people would injure themselves so that they could be excused from working. People were known to cut or burn themselves severely just to skip work. Imagine doing that to yourself. Your long list of rough conditions won't end there, as sometimes you will be forced to work in such harsh weather which will make the already unbearable circumstances 10 times worse. Imagine digging the ground on a snowy day in Russia. The ground will be frozen, and it will require you to invest every bit of energy you have to break through the soil. Or when it's raining, you will really struggle to work in caves for mining as they might get flooded or collapse on themselves. Since they were criminals, few precautions were taken to cater to them, and this resulted in a lot of deaths. So take care, folks, you might die from natural causes, despite facing man-made torture. We have talked about the rough conditions you will be facing, but we haven't even discussed the amount of work you're supposed to do. So let me ask you, how many hours do you work daily? Well, most people will answer the traditional 9 to 5 working hour shifts, 8 hours, and that too in a good working environment. In the Gulag, you will be forced to work upwards of 14 hours daily. Yes, you heard that right. 14 hours daily with the harsh working conditions. I have already told you all about it. Most people would faint after 10 hours, which would be met with strict action from the camp guards. If you continue to struggle to meet the work standards that the Gulag requires, you would most probably be shot dead by the camp guards, which, given the life you're living at the moment, might seem like a good option. And you will see this everywhere during your time at the Gulag. People would end their life after not being able to handle the severe conditions and out of fear of dying painful death by the guards. However, the horror of the guards did not end there. Did you know that the names of those who would be shot that night were announced by the guards each evening at Kolyma before carrying them outside to be put to death? Imagine living every day with the fear that you might be shot that very night. 169 men were once shot and their dead remains were carelessly dumped into a hole. In 1996, their remains were discovered covered in ice and still wearing their clothes. Now that is one absolutely frightening sight. The situation was so bad that prisoners started getting tattoos of Stalin and Lenin, as the Soviets practically worshipped those two. Prisoners would do this so that they would not be severely beaten up or get cut by the guards. Now, imagine after you are done with all this hard and torturous work, the least you could ask for is some food. Nourishment is important if you want to work better. The Soviets ignored this and many people didn't get proper food. However, later the Soviets devised a system where rationing would occur based on the proper work people did. So basically more work led to more food. This backfired even more as the people who were not physically capable of doing more work kept getting less food and hence became weaker and weaker. The strong got more and more strong, and thus a divide came among the people. This was the Soviets' way of killing off the weak. Furthermore, as you can imagine, there is a little regulation in the Gulag, as there will be thousands working with you. And without said regulation, the worst horrors can befall you. Normally, the smallest and weakest are targeted first. Dangerous, evil people will group together and form groups and will hunt the weak, taking out all their frustration after the long hours of hard work on them. And since most people are tired, sick, and exhausted due to the long hours of work, they will not care for you. They will only care for themselves. So, take care of yourself, and at least try to find someone trustworthy so that you could have that assurance of him or her having your back. However, despite this, one thing holds true. Even if you manage to survive it physically, you will surely be emotionally scarred for the rest of your life. I'm sure that by now, you must have made up your mind that the Gulag is indeed a scary place to be in. So this begs the question, why would you even bother to do it in the first place? I mean, it's better to die than to face this torture. Well, you will be given the incentive to be let free if you manage to hit certain criteria. This motivates the criminals to work harder and will also result in quick times and efficiency for them, which would benefit the state. You must think that since they were free now, they could finally live a happy life. Unfortunately, that is so not the case. An individual was instead only allowed to live in the country after being freed from the prison camps and was absolutely forbidden from accessing cities. This enabled the Soviets to differentiate them from the freed people and the normal Russian citizens. Moreover, they were also labeled as undesirables by society and were not even issued normal documentation. They were given a wolf ticket, which limited their interaction in any urban place and limited their life in deserted places. Imagine working hard to get out of the Gulag just to live a lonely life. Some people might even argue that death is way better than this. I hope that answers your questions regarding the disturbing life of a prisoner in the Gulag, now that you have experienced the many horrors of it yourself. I think we've covered everything, but if you have any more questions in mind, do let us know in the comments down below. We value the feedback of our esteemed subscribers, so don't hesitate to do so. Until next time, see ya!